I think now that what's happening is, let me say it, I think that if we get this right, if we can figure out what this natural unfoldment is, and we keep track of it in the way that was intended, which is going to be the most compact and economical way, we are going to be able to show that the sequence of letters in the text of Genesis is just as determined as the sequence of digits in the decimal expansion for pi. That is a natural artifact of this universe at the level. In fact, that quality is very similar to pi. After all, the text, you're not supposed to change a letter. It would be the destruction of the universe. If you changed any digit in pi, it wouldn't be pi. Same kind of thing. Who wrote pi? Did God write pi or man write pi? You know, there are statisticians who've shown that there are letter-level patterns throughout the books of Moses. The observant people, the religious people, say, well, that proves only God could have done it. Because how could you write these intense, deeply, convoluted mathematical patterns and still have it read like text? And the Bible scholars who don't believe anything said, oh, that proves that it can't have come from God, that man had to have made it up like a double cross. Ezra sat there and worked out all these patterns. And they both are using the same evidence to prove the opposite. But I'm saying they're both missing the point. That pi is not written by God or man alone. Pi is determined by God, by nature, by reality. But it's written in our number system for our benefit. The pattern in the Bible, in the Torah, is a pattern of creation, not because some religious fanatic said so, but because, like pi, it is demonstrable from this reality and co-generates this reality. So that we ought to be able to unfurl the sequence of letters. Here's another way. Here's another problem. People have said that the 5 books of Moses can't have all been sacred, can't have all come from God, because they were written supposedly over 1,000 years. So how could these patterns go from one text to the other unless someone redacted them all together? But everyone knows, and I'm not good at this, if you're doing something in Tai Chi, or if you're swinging a golf club, you have to follow through. If you're in a deep meditation, and you're following through a sequence of feelings leading towards this brilliant point of transcendence, then there is only one path, there is only one follow-through. And to continue to unfurl the text, as a prophet might be able to, means merely to stay on balance on that line, to ride the surfboard ashore. You don't have to do anything but stand upright on the surfboard. In fact, standing upright on the surfboard is a very good analogy for all of this, because in Talmud there is a phrase used to designate a person of integrity. They are called tofo kavaro. That means that their outside is just like their inside. But if you can make your outside like your inside, these are inversions to each other. Bringing your outside and inside together is symbolically self-abnegation. That's the meditation. That's the loss of ego in the meditation. That's why this is also Aladdin's lamp.
You look at a model fruit. Here is an apple. Now, if this were a real fruit, if you went down the stem, you would come into the middle where there'd be a star of seeds in the middle, and the flower end would be here, and there'd be a hole. We could draw a deeper notch down the middle to go into the seeds in the middle. Now, the reason we realized this was a hand is once we had drawn these lines, which represent the edges of a particular kind of knot, which we'll get into later in the tape if we have time, or on a supplementary tape. What you realize is that this can be very much like a kind of bowling ball, where if you could put your thumb down into the middle, you could grasp between each of these edges. And it would look, if I can display it for the camera, just like a hand. Remember, my thumb is going into the middle, and what I'm saying is that each of these regions, from here to here, would be a hand. And of course, there'd be 3 hands as I go around. I'll show it to you from here. There's three hand-shaped sections. And so there'd be 4 fingers in each one, the thumb in the middle. There'd be 12 fingers around the perimeter. And thus you have 12 tribes around the seed center, the star, the tabernacle, if you'd like. In other traditions, there are 12 apostles, there are 12 knights around the round table, there are 12 imams of Shia Islam, there are 12 houses to the zodiac. There are a whole number of 12 around 1 forms. And in the middle, of course, if we were to open it, this disc, I don't know if you can see this very well, but the disc is the flat earth. This is where, I'll put it inside, maybe you can see the hand in there. You put the hand inside, This disk becomes the earth. There's the sun. This is the heavens, the dome. And what we've got in our model, again, is a model hand. Now, why a model hand? Well, now we're going to get back to the discussion. The hand, the human hand, is a form that is automatically possible to be visualized by human beings. Even a child, even a blind person can see their own hand. If you close your eyes, you can try it right now with me on the camera. Just close your eyes and point towards something. Move your fingers any way you'd like. Move your hand any way you'd like. You can see where your hand is pointing. Now, since the letters are shadows of this model hand, as I tip my hand, I can immediately see the letters. And that's what we've found. Now, why should that be? Well, it makes sense because the hand is the means by which we project our conscious reality, our conscious wills, into the physical universe. We dispense our consciousness into physicality by means of the hand. The human hand is the human embodiment of a general projective principle.
A system which comes into harmony within itself becomes more powerful than others, and it will entrain, this is another term he used, it will entrain or pull after itself a system that is out of harmony. So once this oscillator or resonating system comes into harmony, it will trigger the rest one after the other. It's a domino effect. So as the heart pumps blood through the aorta, and he called the aorta the biggest plumbing in the body. So it's a tremendous impact on the body, and it shakes the body so that it vibrates. It hits the bifurcation into the legs, and a certain plane wave is reflected up. The next pulse comes down, and the plane wave and the pulse clash, and it creates a disruption in the body. When the harmonious 7 hertz vibration is set up, it seems that the heart and the lungs begin to talk to each other, and they begin to work in harmony, so that a pulse comes down and waits for the reflection to come up, and they both go up together, and then the next pulse comes down, and there is no clash occurring anymore, and the body goes into resonance, triggering the next oscillator, which is the brain. And looking at the head, again, from the point of view of engineering, it's a rigid box resting on a resilient column, which is the spine. There is a field like that around the human body, and the different frequencies interact, creating nodes. Medicine is moving into a new field, new energy medicine or vibrational medicine. The body is seen as a field of interacting electromagnetic or electric fields. So on that journey into the expanded states of consciousness, it's like a guided tour. You can ask questions and you get answers, and once you understand and you say, okay, I got it, the slide changes, the page is turned, and you're shown new things. He asked, well, I've seen that model of the universe. In fact, he did perceive it in an expanded state, and then he started figuring out what it's all about. So having seen it, he said, well, it looks like a bounded structure. There must be something beyond it. On top of that structure, there appears to be a very luminous something, and as you approach it closer, this brilliant white light seems to have a shape such as this. And Ben, being familiar with the Hebrew language, looked at that and he said, no, I must be programming myself. This looks like the Hebrew letter Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And immediately the explanation comes. No, this is not a Hebrew letter. This is an interference pattern of 4 energies interacting on this level, on this cosmic level. And they create this pattern, which is a consciousness whose body this is. This consciousness contains the consciousnesses of all the 49 creators. In other words, consciousness is modular. This Aleph, a little closer, what he saw was that the front of it was a brilliant white light, and the back was dark, and it looked rather three-dimensional. It's a hologram. And there are 22 such forms interference patterns emerging from the luminous side, and they look exactly like the Hebrew letters.